The classroom as a bridge. The classroom is a unique place. It is removed from the real world, and the trainers who inhabit this world, the classroom, they are far removed basically because of their training and their philosophy. They are far removed from the real business concerns, professional concerns of the business English world. So what they require is a bridge between the classroom and the real world, and try to prepare their learners to somehow use this classroom as a bridge, so to be prepared to enter the professional world of business. So they need to understand something of the business environment in order to equip their learners with the required tools with which they can enter the business world. So they need to understand something of that business environment, and they have to include certain activities within their course so that they can prepare their learners for what they will encounter in the real world. So how do they integrate the real issues of the business environment and the communication skills and the management skills in the business English class? Because these are the three concerns which they should have to integrate these three things: business environment, communication skills, and management skills within the business English class. Because basically their learners will have to operate in the real world of business, and they will need and require certain language skills which they could use for real purposes, the real discourse in their business and future professions. So there are various approaches which can be seen here. One is that the class should replicate the real world. The other one is that the class should be able to develop skills in the learners which they should be able to transfer later on into the real world. And then that the class should be able to provide an environment from which these skills can grow naturally. Another approach is that the classroom should help the students to acquire a good foundation of language which they can use in real life. So in the real world approach, the purpose is to recreate or replicate the real world. And the activities which are used for this purpose are simulations of real roles or of role plays. So the learner simulates a role, what he or she expects he would be doing later on in his professional life. And this way they try to recreate the what he would actually be doing in that world and give a practice of that in the safe environment of the class. Then the next approach, that the classroom should be seen as a place for developing skills, so that these skills can later on be transferred for later use. Here the activities of using case studies is there. So a case study is brought in, which is a real case but not the reality for the learner himself, and practice is then carried out around this case study. This allows the learner to look at problem from various perspectives, which are of course not his own perspectives, but they mirror the real job requirements which he will have to face later on. So in this process, in this discussion which is carried out for solving the problem, it requires a lot of variety of learning skills, discussions and negotiations and correct use of language. The next approach is to see the classroom as a bridge. Here it is seen as an environment where skills are acquired naturally, skills which will later be required by the learner to use in his professional life. So a stress-free environment is created for him, and which goes with certain learning styles which flourish when there is a stress-free environment and language practice can be carried out. In this approach, the class is seen as separate and divorced from the real world. So it is perhaps a less obvious bridge, and the aim is to give the learners a secure base in language. So the trainer has to keep in mind that these viewpoints are not mutually exclusive, and they depend upon, of course, the learners' learning styles, and what are the objectives of the learners, what are their needs, and what is their preferred learning style.